Evening, everyone, and welcome to Zinester Talk Episode 2. This is a part of the Silat Circle Writers Festival. Tonight, we're joined by Kate Roque, KB, who was with us last night for Zinester Talk Episode 1, and Erica Carrion and Naomi Gonzalez of the indie press Occult's Razor. Kate, KB, Erica, and Naomi, if all of you are ready, I'll let you go ahead and start the session.
Okay. Good evening. But I'm currently in Melbourne, or NARM. I guess I'm the designated moderator for today. Um, and by designated, I mean I designated myself. Yeah. But since I am in Melbourne, before I start us off, I would first like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which I currently reside, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and that sovereignty has never been ceded. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Okay, good evening, everyone. Um, Okay, so I am one half of Occult's Razor, and before we were starting off today, me and Neil, we were talking about um, how we're gonna go about this talk, and I don't know if you noticed, but we sort of went with a Barbie Oppenheimer. We went for the Barbie Oppenheimer vibes today, which I think is I guess perfectly encapsulates our creative relationship with each other as Occult's Razor. Um, just say I'm the cheerful one and you're you're the pessimistic. No, I think we're both cheerful and pessimistic in just very different ways. But anyway, um, yeah, I'm curious to know, Kate and KB's like since we've started Occult's Razor together, so we know each other's history. But I'm curious about how the both of you came into your art and writing practice, how you came into the craft of zine making, why are you enamored with this particular form of creative expression? So yeah, I'm just curious how are you gonna talk about your personal experiences on that?
Okay, I guess I can start. So, hi, super nice to meet you guys, Erica, Aob, and KB. For me personally, I'm super new to zine making. I mean, as a writer, I've always done things solo, but um, I got into zine making when I also got into other forms of art. In the last year, I was very into cyanotype printing, which is a kind of printing that uses the sunlight to kind of bring out the prints of whatever object or whatever negative you're trying to print. And so I was super interested by that. And for my zine submission, the chapbook Multiverse Theory, I actually worked with one of my closest artist friends with the visuals, and I'm super happy with how they turned out. Shout out to Kathleen. If you've seen my submission, the visuals are super amazing, and I think they really encapsulated the story I was trying to tell. So yeah, been a writer for a while, but very new to zine making. How about you, KB? I'm interested in how you started out.
Hi everyone. Hi Erica, Niobe, and Kate. It's so nice meeting you here. And wow, what a big question. It's super hard to answer. I am sure other creators would understand. So, I've been I was in denial for a long time because my upbringing was more of in the math and science field. So I was meant to be a scientist or an engineer, but then I finally came to terms with the idea or the fact that I was actually more of a creative. And it really showed when I look back to the past that I've always been creative, I've always been writing. It all started when I first got into the habit of reading. And when we read, of course, we try to write, we try to copy the voices of the characters that we've read or met. And so that's what happened. Books and reading were what happened to me, and it kind of snowballed from there. So I'm, I'm a very try and try until you learn person. So my zines are kind of the culminating, how do you call it, like the culmination of everything, because there I share my thoughts, I share my writing, I share about the books that I read. If for example if I wanted to try painting, then I would do it, and then you would see that in the next issue. So it's kind of like that. So um I do a lot of other creative work. So I'm a reader. I review books and I also edit books. And then at the same time, I like many of us, I'm sure you understand. Like we try to do lots of stuff because it's fun, and every day is a new day to try. So in terms of zine making, I think it also started when I was a child because I would put together papers and stickers and just try to produce my own little tiny books. And then in college, zines were still a thing. And then later on, as an adult, I returned to making a few. And then finally in 2021, I started this Okay to Be series. And it started out as a collaborative project. So I used to work with a lot of creators. And then I got tired and a little bit lazy. So I just focused on myself. So that's how it all started. Thanks for listening. And hello to everyone tuning in.
Uh, Thanks, Kaylee, and thanks, Kate. Actually, like a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, resonated with me, and yeah, and I think the one thing that we have in common, just listening to how you two um, came into zine making, but also other creative endeavors, is its collaborative nature.
Mhm.
There's always this, I don't know, there's, well, I was coming from, or at least my experience coming from the academe, because I had a very, I guess you could have a very formal training. Me
Mhm.
and Naomi met in Malate Literary Folio, which is the literary and art um, publication, student publication of De La Salle. Um, and we also have experience going through the MFA creative writing program at De La Salle. So we've had that kind of, would you call that rigorous training? Rigorous training. I use that word very loosely in terms of my level of rigorousness. Yeah, but so I don't know, like being an academic, and right now I'm also doing a creative writing PhD. I think there's always this impression that it could be creative endeavors could be a rather solitary um, endeavor, but I
Mhm.
think when it comes to indie publishing and independent stuff like this, despite the fact that you have the word independent there, there's it fosters a lot of creative collaboration. So and there's a lot of vitality or creativity that um, that comes out of that. So yeah, I'll Niobe could jump in after this, but basically, yeah, that's also um, we've had a similar sort of journey in that, because of that background of um, um, going through the art of craftsmanship, with a certain program. Um, there's something liberating about collaborating with someone that you've known for a while, who you have parallel interests, and you have interest, and one of those interests is like just experimenting with weird crap. And weird forms and everything. I feel like zine making and us collaborating under Occult's Razor allows us to sort of do the things that we want to do that's not necessarily the same as the kind of things that we worked on both individually and together, before. You wanna you wanna add anything to that?
It's it's I mean, in terms of collaboration, I should add something to that, but just so we
Yeah,
can wrap it up.
yeah.
But we covered a lot of it. I mean, I also kind of what KB and Kate also said resonate with me personally. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. And I mean, for me, coming also from a background of, I like saying I make objects, just because objects to me is just very broad, in the sense like they're things, but also it can also be used as a verb. And I noticed that's one of the things that I've been as like a thematic concern in my work personally. And then what else? And then with Erica, we've been working on Occult's Razor as a repository of this invented ephemera artifacts, things like that. So it's really just all of these we call them sometimes literary objects. So it's something I think that's very close to our hearts, just having all of these creative spaces and creative avenues, where we get to explore and experiment and just, play. Yeah.
um yeah, and yeah, like I said earlier, there's something liberating about sort of not caring about whether this is academically publishable. Yeah, so um yeah, I think we can all agree on how that sort of fosters a lot of creativity in our work. Okay, so jumping into the stories that you both shared. So yeah, I have a couple of like broad but meaty questions, for the both of you. I was sort of what before I sent those questions, I was sort of worried whether or not I'm too academic in my questions. I'm stuck in academia for so long, so sometimes I can't shut it off. But yeah, but your work has given me a lot to like chew on. So um for Kate in multiverse theory, so I think what as someone who, according to one of our writer friends, is also someone who writes about domesticity a lot. Um, I I was struck by the lot of images of domestic life and the sort of undercurrent of um, uh, intensity and violence, and there's always that sort of the idea of tension brewing under the surface of like everyday things, from holidays to just the simple act of eating together at the table, and it's interspersed with a lot of these subtly violent images that you nevertheless see every day, like kitchen knives, or even just teeth, or even just or even just the mention of dogs. So yeah, and so I'm sort of curious how you, like if you have any thoughts about that, the relationship of desire and wanting and violence, which I think, uh yeah, because I could see it, like even just the act of wanting something to a certain extent has some element of danger and violence in it. So yeah, I just want to like hear you speak on that idea.
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Erica. I actually read like your points for discussion last night, and I was like, okay, this is a lot to think about, but in a good way. Like I really started thinking about my own writing as a whole, and I think there's a lot of things that inspired like those images. And I can say they're all very intentional and personal. Like they come from a very personal place and based on a lot of my experiences, you know. And so I really like the contrast of like those domestic images and the tension that can be built up in, you know, everyday spaces. And I'm from an Asian household, right? Like nothing is ever correct. And so a lot of these emotions are very under the surface and they don't really come out until um things get intense, you know. And in the later parts of my book, that's where the relationship between like longing and violence is kind of tackled more deeply, I think. And I mean, as I think more about my body of work as a whole, like I've come to realize that um, desire and violence being kind of the same or different sides of the same coin, like is a major theme in a lot of my works, and that you know, that longing is the gentler side of like, oh, I want a community, I want people to care for, and I want people to care for me as well. And the other side of that is if you ever get neglected, if you ever get mistreated in any way, you kind of switch into this angrier, um, maybe more reactive kind of person. But it comes from the same, it's rooted in the same feeling, right? Of wanting to connect with other people and wanting harmonious relationships with others. And those, you know, it, the violence is not, or that anger isn't a bad thing in itself. It comes from wanting the best for yourself or wanting better for yourself. And as for the animals, those are also very intentional. I think the most recurring one, especially like from the visuals, you can see the dogs, and a lot of the pieces I wrote for Multiverse actually I wrote them while my dog was very sick and I thought he was gonna die. And so I at that time I thought a lot about our friendship, you know, and kind of thought about how similar we are in our loyalty and maybe our sensitivity, which again isn't, as I've learned, necessarily a bad thing. You know, it helps you fully experience the world or experience it more deeply, and that does lead to very high highs and low lows. But yeah, that's what inspires my work, or at least what's on Multiverse. How about you guys? I was super intrigued by Occult Razor's work. Also, I read both of your zines, and each of the ghosts have very, very detailed backstories. I just wanted to ask, like, how you guys come up with that. Like, do you guys see things, or
I wish.
Do you really want to see things?
It would make things interesting.
yeah, definitely. And the ghosts have so much like personality. You know, how do you guys come up with those?
Yeah, Naomi, how do we come up with that?
Well, thank you
Wait,
so much for reading the zines, Kate. And thank you for the feedback. I think if I remember, I think it started. So one of my hobbies now is air dry clay. And I just started sculpting ghosts for some reason, and I think this was like as the pandemic ended, I just got this into this weird headspace that where I think, oh no, people very weird. There was so much conflict happening, and there was a lot of things to be sad about, and for some reason it manifested in what I was making. And then when I showed them to Erica, we were like, is this something we can probably do? And then I pitched to her the idea of the ghostly crumb tinies, which is coming from Edward Gorey's ghastly crumb tinies. So it was kind of a reference to that because I think the original book was about, it was also an abecedario of like I think little children dying. I'm sorry, these are all my inspos and pegs. Yes, very morbid, and so that's where it was coming from. It was a weird headspace, but I guess that's why Occult Razor is what it is. So I pitched the idea to her, but I think we were rushing to produce the zines as well, and in a way we wanted to figure out how we can get the entire alphabet, but also have specific ghost stories for all of them. Do you wanna add anything, Erica?
Yeah. So yeah, it's. I think that's that's where the creative energy comes from. Like Naomi's is was usually very morbid, and I mean mine is
Just
morbid.
me?
Oh yeah, both of us. No, but I think like we have very parallel but slightly different points of view. How would you describe a difference? I mean, visually, this is the best way I could describe it. But also, just as a sort of description of how we usually conceptualize projects, to put it bluntly, for some reason, we always try to figure out what's the most pretentious. What's the most pretentious concept we could come up with? No, we just because we like to experiment. Just to give you an idea of um, the kinds of weird stuff that we produce. We created our very first project together was
Wait, I have it.
like an imaginary tarot deck
Have
called the
props.
yes visual aid. Called a descending order of mortal significance. And we wrote stories at the back as well that are based off of medical delusions, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and so we sort of try to pick interesting prompts that'll hopefully lead to something unexpected. In some of our later work, we also incorporate tools like predictive text, again, in order to see what sort of new or unexpected images come out of that. So we collaborate not just with each other, but with other tools. So in Ghostly Crumbs, that's also what happened. We have slightly individual processes for doing this, but for example, in my case, we divided the two. We divided the writing work as we usually do. And in my case, I sort of try to complete a story using two very different predictive text engines, and then I write them according to their suggestions. And some of it sort of doesn't make any sort of sense. You know how when you run through something through an AI prompt, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I sort of try to see if these two engines could answer each other's, finish each other's sentences, and then I construct a scene to try and make sense of what these two engines are about. So that's how we try to come up with as weird a scenario as we could, by putting restraints in our work, or putting certain conditions, or giving ourselves certain conditions and prompts. And I think um, that's what helps us generate these weird stories.
For me, I think I approached
Yeah.
it like a seance, by the way. So I also used, I think we credit it in the zine itself. We used a tool called InferKit, where you get to ask questions. And I guess you just put like a few words in and then it fills up the rest. And then you can just keep just communicating with it. So I was like, okay, it's ghost stories. Let's try to communicate with a ghost. And I don't have a ghost at hand, so I'm just gonna use this tool and try to see what pops up. For some reason, there are two versions of the Ghostly Crumb Tinies zine. Mine ended up very dark and tragic, but also very absurd. Well, Erica's kind of ended up a little comedic. So we kind of applied the Baskin and Sock kind of characters to them as as anchors to the entire story.
Yeah, and I think this was out of all the stuff that we did before. The downside of like coming up with like really weird prompts and really weird content is that it takes us a long time to finish. It's super long time,
It's like
and
three
Ghostly
years.
yeah. And so when we did Ghostly Crumbs, we were like, how could we still be playful with our form, but also finish it as fast as possible, and also make it approachable because we were told before that our work was interesting but sort of very esoteric, and very niche. So okay, so how do we make this new one have that playfulness and be a bit more approachable to people as well. Yeah, and we both have sort of we are very self-reflective about the act of writing being a sort of artificial thing already, which is why I think we like playing with tools like predictive text and um, and stuff. Yeah, so that's our long-winded answer for that.
Version.
I wish we could see. I wish I could see. No, no. Do I wish I could see stuff? Maybe I just see that because I'm because sometimes PhD makes me stuck at home. And it's like just saying the same thing every day. I wish there was a ghost that could help me produce my thesis as fast as we produced Ghostly Crumbs. Yeah. And in relation to that sort of that idea of just wanting the best for yourself, that you spoke of earlier, Kate, and that um, just and that desire to be like connecting and wanting to connect with other people, and yeah, I kind of see that in a way in your work, KB, that this the OK to Be series is a love letter to other creatives, which is why it's so interesting for me to hear that you came from like this sort of place where you were in denial that your place is as a creative, and that reading is something that being creative is something that happened to you. So um, looking at your work, I was curious why you um, why you chose to aim this specifically at creatives. Is it because you think maybe creatives most of all need to hear those words? Yeah, so yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Thanks for the question. And I really loved listening to your process and also Kate's process. I wanted to jump in, but I'll answer the question first. And I also wanted to say hi to Wahida. She was also here last night. And also, I think Maui was also here last night. So thank you so much for tuning in again. And well, so okay to be started as a Patreon project. So I run a Patreon and I would schedule stuff there, not like religiously, but I would schedule stuff there, and I would think of several projects so to keep my patrons happy, essentially. So sometimes I would have Q&As, live Q&As, or like just videos of me doing creative stuff. And then one day I came across my older zines, my older stuff, and said, why not? Let's do this again. So that's how I came up with it. And it's so interesting to me that you would call it a love letter to other creators, because yeah, in a way it is, but it's also a love letter to myself for first and foremost. I usually create my zines mostly for myself. I know it's an entirely other discussion when it comes to creating stuff, and if you're creating it for someone or if you're creating it for yourself. But for this project of mine, it was mostly for me. But then I did add that tagline of everyday adventures by creators for creators, because, as I said, um, initially started as a collaborative project. I asked people to contribute because I think that's just my nature. So I like building small groups and communities, and that's how I feel like I'm most comfortable in. I like meeting other people and just getting into um, just taking a peek into their processes. And so that's why I said earlier that it was a culmination of everything that I enjoyed. So yeah, so when we when you were talking about like your inspiration and how you got to zine earlier, and for me, when I create an issue, so I do this every month, I would just sit down. I talked about this yesterday as well, but I just sit down and then just try to finish it in one go. And then if I'm happy with it, I just release it. So so it's my process is very different from other creators who like to brew things. And like yesterday there was another creator um who who brewed her work for 12 years, and it was like, oh my gosh, congratulations, you finally birthed it. And the work was so good, it really reflected her coming of age and her growth as a creator, and also the voice in her poems and stuff. But for me, it's almost always a spur of the moment thing. So for example, oh, I found the word soft, and I would play around like the idea of softness or the opposite of it, and that's when I start making zines. And in terms of style, or like the art style that I would apply to my zine, it really depends on what I'm interested in at the moment, or if I watched any vlogs that featured um, anything that was remotely new to me. So I would try that. For example, I'm not really an artist. That's times five. Like I wasn't trained to be an artist. So I was trained in algebra and stuff, and advanced advanced math and stuff. So I would just teach myself to paint, to draw, to edit on softwares, use Canva. So all of my zines are a reflection of my journey as a creative person. So sometimes I would be really proud of myself just looking at them, because it can be really hard to put out your work out there. But yeah, that's my journey. And I also wanted to follow through to what Kate was talking about earlier. I read both of your zines, so I'm just going to share my thoughts about Kate's first. So I agree with everything that Erica said, and I also wanted to add that the poems felt so familiar. And I like that the poems used the second POV. I mean, it was in the first POV, but it was the poems talk to you, and it just felt it just felt like I felt like I built a relationship with a chapbook, even though even though it was just for a while that I read it, and the experiences were familiar, and I feel like most of the emotions and the situations there are gonna resonate with a lot of readers if they get to read the chapter book. And well, thank you so much, Kate, for like pouring your heart out into that work, and congratulations for publishing it. And as for Niobe's and Erica's zine, it was super fascinating for me because I'm looking at you guys now, and you don't look like you're going to to do anything that's anything that's morbid. Let's just say that. But but I really enjoyed the zine because I know we're talking about like gold and dark stuff, but the tone to me was so playful, and there was just a childlike the lack of a better term, magic to it, to the whole zine. And I loved getting to know the ghosts. One of my favorites was Isabel, because she was a I forget, but she died because of Linguini and Bob, something like that. But I was just really fascinated by how you came up with every ghost, just like Kate, or just like what Kate said. And um, you did say earlier that your work tends to appear as esoteric or very niche, but I think, you know what? I think this book, children will enjoy it. Like, funnily enough, I think kids chill like it'll. I think this can appear in the children's section. Like I felt yeah, I felt that it was fun and also cute, but then it's something that you would read as a child and love it, and then when you grow up you realize, oh my gosh, what was I reading as a child? There you go. Thanks so much for listening to my feedback. And yeah, I also have questions for you guys, but I'll save it for later.
Yeah, thank you so much, KB, for that. That's actually very high praise. Yeah, I do. Yeah, come to think of it, I do like the idea. I do like that review of this looks like something that a kid would enjoy, and then later I'll find out that this is really messed up. Because I think we all have encountered that kind of TV show or movie or story that sort of uh left that mark on us, and then when we grow up it's like this explains a lot about why we turned out the way we did. um, so yeah, that's actually great, and it was actually in terms of designing the look, and a lot of it was thanks to Naomi because she does the layouts. I just do the I just throw my content at her and she makes sense of them visually. But aside from the writing part, it was also fun doing some of the visuals for this, like the how to make the little ghost doodles, which again is sort of different to how the visuals of our other work usually go. Just like the writing, the visuals are sometimes complicated. Yeah, like in the tower project, we each did collage art for it as well, which was fun. And then and for another project, I had to draw. I did digital artwork for it, but this one was like so fun. I'm glad that you said it was playful because that's how the process um, felt for me at least. So um, yeah, any of you wanted did you want to jump in or?
I'm not really.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Just very.
um, actually, what was I saying? Oh yeah. I wanted to just briefly go back to something that Kate said earlier, that I think also for me, I feel like um, sort of relates to your work, KB, to a certain extent, and that is how like the passive aggressiveness of Asian households, um, which I think we might all, to a certain extent, relate to to some of it, like how certain growing up and being socialized a certain way means that um we're primed to kind of worry about what other people say or think, um and I feel like that's also what I see in okay to be, in the okay to be issues, um is that you're rejecting that kind of idea that, oh, we've built up life, or we've built up women, or we've built up certain experiences to be a certain way, but it's okay to realize that you don't really fall into that, or it's okay to realize that your impression of certain life experiences is wrong, like like embracing fear, or um, embracing what it means to be a woman, to be called a woman, or in that I particularly liked the one about travel, okay to be away, because I'm in Australia, and I have myself grappled um with that sort of, oh, like I feel like I'm abandoning home, or oh, what if I like it too much here, or just the fear of starting over somewhere else. So um that also sort of um resonated with me as well. So I don't know, Katie, if that's something that you thought of, like the things that society has sort of told us to feel or think about certain things, and doing this as a sort of um rejection of all of those societal pressures.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that was so well put. Thanks, Erica. I couldn't find my words tonight, but you said it so well. And you know what? I had to open that issue because I forgot what was inside. So now I have to like look at what
Relatable.
I did, what I made. Oh yes. So these were notes from my journal during my time in Australia. I know you asked about that. So I was in Sydney and Gold Coast last year for around 3 months. So and I was away from everyone, everything, my daytime job, my creative work. Like I was away from all of that. Oh, thank you, Naomi. That's actually just a rainbow pencil. So it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything. Very. So we're okay to be. Yeah, everything Erica said is correct, and I feel like when I started okay to be, it was coming from the idea of so if you feel like you're afraid, then it's okay. And if you feel like you're slow, it's okay. I did have the first few zines, the collaborative ones were about health, about plants and animals, about being a dreamer. So it was just a very, they just all carried very affirming messages. So that's what I want to somehow share. It's other creators have given me this this series is so positive and stuff like that. And yes, absolutely. A lot of my zines are on the positive side, but it's also looking at something negative and just accepting it the way it is, and that yeah, one day we'll just get through, and it's okay to be one thing right now, and that's that's the I mean that's how the okay to be zines go anyway. Like it's You can be a different thing now and then later on revert to whatever you were. And so yeah, I think you encapsulated that well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, thanks for um that work as well. I also like the one about I just want to like add that I also really liked Okay to Be Home because
Ooh,
I feel like it's I think I like it in the same way that that I was intrigued by violence in Kate's work because I think both in Okay to Be Home and in Multiverse, you're both talking about complex feelings of what is or isn't a safe
yeah,
space.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's I do really like that how it captures your that home could be physical, but also home is a state of mind as well, or a safe space can be a state of mind as well. In that you can't use these words against me with while I'm in this safe space. Whereas in multiverse, I feel like that's also it's sort of the reverse. Like, what if the safest place you're supposed to be in um, is a bit more complex? Like your relationship with that place is a lot more complex
yeah,
than what home is supposed to be. So I feel like those two themes, the way that since I read them, one after the other, they kind of resonate with each other in terms of how we think about home.
yeah, for sure. For me as well, I saw myself in that book. So now it's Kate's turn to share what she thinks.
Yeah, actually, I never thought about that, but once you mention it, I was like, yeah, they actually do contrast each other a lot. Because I really like what KB said about how the OK to Be series isn't just being positive, it's also about accepting the negative things as they are, right? And then kind of coming to terms with where you are and the fact that you're not always gonna be in the same place, which is a good thing, and which is also something that I think the persona in Multiverse Theory had kind of a hard time accepting that, there will be different phases, there will be different outcomes to your decisions, and wherever you may find yourself after whatever situation you might be in, um, all you can really do is accept yourself for where you are and kind of figure it out from there. I think when I was putting together the pieces, I really would have appreciated like reading something like KB's zines, right? Because there are so many affirmations there about um, just seeing everything as it is, and knowing that you're here and you'll get through whatever it is you're going through. Actually, about the OK to Be series, I wanted to ask KB, like all of the concepts, all of the emotions you make your zines around. How do you come up with those? Are they based on your own feelings? I like that they're very abstract, but everybody has their own experiences with those, like being home, being away, maybe being a woman, being a dreamer. So I'm really interested in why you chose those concepts specifically, and I guess your experiences with them.
Thanks for your interest, Kate. So I choose topics based on how I feel for sure, and then it really I'm easily excitable by the things that for example, I have an issue that's called "Okay to Be Treasured," and that's because I saw so like I'm a member of fan base, and in a fan base, you see so many people collecting their merch, and so I thought, oh, that would be interesting. Like, what do people collect? Because I collect like a lot of notebooks, a lot of pens, not necessarily merch of an idol group, but like I'm just interested in what other people collect. So I found out that other stones and maps. Well, I do also collect maps. So those kinds of things, like it just depends on what I see at the moment. So remember I said that I'm a very like spontaneous kind of spur of the moment person. So whenever I see something, like I jot it down in my journal, and then later I'm gonna do that. Or like right away, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start doing it. And for other stuff, like some of the themes were actually requested by either my patrons or like other readers of the zines. So they do ask me, for example, the health one. um there A dentist actually requested that issue, so I thought, okay, let's do that. And it wasn't just about like health, like physical health, but it was also about mental, emotional health, spiritual health. So all the collaborators of that zine contributed different pieces from written from a different perspective. So yes, but most most of them are just my ideas and my experiences. Like for example, and I also look at the calendar. For example, the issue, it was of course Women's Month, so sometimes I would pay tribute to holidays or like important dates. And what else? Oh, and I also work on like I also have zines where I work with just one creator. So for example, I would just pick at random, and then maybe next time it'll be Kate, and Kate, okay, let's do something like this. Um okay to be I can't think of anything right now, but but let's just put that as a blank. So I would work around your work, and yeah, essentially collaborate. That's just how it happens sometimes, or most of the time for me. So yeah, can I ask my questions as well?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so for Kate, I do have a question for Kate, because I read the zine, and of course I felt the feelings, but I was really interested in how what the process was like working with an artist. I know you work with a layout artist, a graphic designer. So I wanted to ask about the colors and um, the decisions of adding the into your zine, and that goes for Niobe and Erica as well. And I also wanted to know if the Ghostly Crumb, I know it's a series, is it? Because this is a sock, right? So do you have any more idea, or is there any upcoming um like a new like a new issue? So yeah, that's my question for now for each of you.
Um, do you
Oh, you
want
guys
to
can
start,
go ahead.
okay? or,
Go ahead,
You
or
guys can
okay,
go
Kate.
ahead.
okay. Well,
Oh, okay.
oh wait, sorry.
So
Yeah. You go ahead
answering for
first,
you.
Kate.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you so
sorry.
much for that, baby. Um, well, like I mentioned earlier, I had to make a lot of like super small decisions. So that includes like the colors of the zine, and I'm so glad that people noticed because I actually had a really hard time with the visuals, which is where Kat like really came in and brought everything to life visually. So I'm super thankful for that. I think the main color is blue because, as I mentioned earlier, I was very inspired by piano type printing. So like the process goes like there are these two solutions that you spread onto your canvas, and then whatever it is you want printed, like whether it's an object or like a photo, get a negative of the photo, or you get whatever object it is you want printed, and then you lay everything out on the sun, and then from there, like you wait just a few minutes and the sun like prints your print, and it comes out this very like deep blue color, and I was super interested in that starting last year. So I think that was a really good metaphor also for what the story of multiverse theory was. At the start of the chapbook, the persona's kind of confined into this domestic scene, right? And then in the second and the later chapters, they're kind of thrown into these unfamiliar situations, very new to them, and they're stepping out into the sun, into the unknown, and it's kind of uncomfortable, but it does reflect growth. And I'm really glad like I was able to explore cyanotype as an art form because it inspired a lot of my writing as well. So yeah.
Um, yeah, I was gonna ask you more about the cyanotype because that's also um, fascinating, both as a process and as a kind of metaphor for your work. Um, yeah, so good question, Yobi. Do we have a next one? um,
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, it's
I've
a good
been
idea.
inspired. Yeah, it's super inspiring to have like KB validate us, and I'm actually interested in how you still do your zine consistently. And I really appreciate how you shared with us your process. Actually, when I read your zines, the first question I asked was like, how do you get to that mindset? Like personally I also want to feel okay with things, but anyway, I digress. So to answer the question, I'm not really sure. It really our process is kind of on a whim at the moment, so it depends if we feel like it. So right now there's just the two versions, but who knows.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, like UKB, we sort of just message each other and say, "Hey, why don't we do this?" The only difference is that we take ages. I too would like to learn a more expedient process to get to get from point A to point B. But yeah, like it's certainly that's certainly on the table. Um, yeah, on the subject of we're going to do more of these. I am also curious what some of you have already or you or both of you have spoken to a certain extent about what you want to do in the future. But yeah, I'm curious to know if you have like any concrete next project plans. Kate, if your next one is also inspired by another kind of craft or art that you were exploring, and yeah, KB, if there's another like series of similar to OK to Be that you might possibly start in the future as well. So yeah, maybe Kate
Oh, okay.
first, or
Okay.
KB first. Yeah.
Okay, me first. I think we were just waiting on each other, Kate and I. But yeah, I can go first. I don't really have any concrete plans. Actually, as of now, I'm gonna put okay to be aside. Like it's gonna go on hiatus for quite a while. So, but I do have like upcoming projects that are still in the same line, but also different. So confusing. But it's all in the realm of creating things and writing things and reading stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to go back to writing fiction, like a more long form. So that's what I'm working on Patreon. And um yeah, so that's top of my head plan. And as for Niobe's comment about how do you get there, so don't worry, just I got this yesterday as well, and I think I think we just all need to be a little older, and then we'll get there. Like it sounds so simple, like it's so easy to say that, but I did get through like a lot of patches like many creators have. But I think like it's just not age, but you also make a decision, like this is something that I want to do, and this is something I aspire for, and eventually you'll get there. Like I did went through that very angry phase. Like I'm very morbid, I'm very dark, so sensitive, and I still am in many ways. And but I really try to train my brain, or at least a creative brain, to go to that other end. And I think it also it it's also been heavily influenced by the books I work on, because I read a lot of romance, young adult and adult, and the genre requires a happy ending, right? And so we all want a happy ending. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, like I do want a happy ending, and that's that's how that's how I get there, because I always think of something, like I always try to see the brighter things, or the brighter side of things, if that makes sense. But yeah, don't get me wrong, I get sad, and I get sad a lot too. Like I can be very sentimental, and it's okay to be that way. So there you go. And yeah, now it's Kate's turn. I hope she releases more books, and the decision of picking like visuals gets easier.
Oh my gosh, pressure. Well, I'm super excited for all of you guys. Based on what I've read from you, like I know your future projects are gonna be super exciting as well. As for me, nothing concrete planned yet, as in very blank page right now as of my next zine or chapbook. But I'm hoping to release one at least every year. Of course, no pressure because I do also work full time, and I'm trying to explore a lot of other creative means as well. Recently, I've been getting back into embroidery, so I don't know, maybe that'll inspire me to do more writing or to write about other things. Yeah.
Did you say embroidery, Kate?
Yes.
Oh, I tried that last year. It's so fun.
Yeah, right. I really like um trying to create like pictures using the thread. It's so satisfying to look back on. And
And all
when
the
I'm,
stitches to learn, right?
yeah, super
My list of
interesting.
grandma hobbies.
Yeah, I always run out of threads, but it's always fun to like practice. Just haven't done it in a while, but I've been getting back into it, and it's been super fun.
It
So maybe
is.
maybe that will inspire me.
Yeah, for sure. Can we demote ourselves to tita? Like grandma is so advanced. Like then we
Yes,
just do titas first, and then grandma later on.
yeah, let's do Tita stuff first.
The first tier is ate. We moved from ate to tita
Yeah, I think
na.
I
we
know.
graduated now.
For
Why
as
did
long
I
as
says
it's
I'm
not
not
manang.
patient?
I don't mind manang.
I don't mind, but I'll mind grandma. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, so
Why
Tita,
are
I
they
think is
saying
the
something
goal.
in Why are they saying something in the comment section? I'm not patient enough for embroidery. But it's a great hobby for sure. Why
I can
the
relate to
never say
Wahida.
never?
I can relate, Wahida. Yes.
It's an acquired taste, I think.
It is really slow, like having to kind of I mean, there's already a picture in your head, and I mean, it's like with any other art form. I think some semblance of patience. So, but I
Yeah.
think it can be rewarding in some way. If like you don't stab
So
yourself like a lot, like I get lots of the needle. I'm not great at it yet.
yeah, well, you should be. You're into like morbid stuff. Like needles should be in your wrist.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Next
okay to
Not
project,
be
Newbie.
much.
intrigued.
Well, you just gave us an idea, I guess.
You know what? Just a little bit off tangent. You were asking if you could see ghosts, and I think we all used to see ghosts, spirits as children, right? Like I could see, and I have like tons of stories. And my so-called third eye was open until I was in high school. So
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Anyway, so maybe yeah, okay to be ghosted can be can be an
Oh my
issue.
gosh. That's perfect.
It is,
Yeah,
and I think yeah, and I think maybe
okay, so
that's
go
why
ahead.
I enjoyed the zine like a little bit too much because it was like in my line of interest. So
To your inner child.
yes, my
Maybe you
inner
guys can
child
do,
was fed.
maybe you guys can do like a Halloween issue together. You know, okay to be
I
ghosted.
Yeah,
guess
we
I
should.
don't mind.
But
it's gonna be
we
a
just we
hundred
just need to like
yes.
schedule our efforts. We used to related to that. We back when we were both in the same country,
Mhm.
and we still were able to release projects in person. And we would participate in other fairs, indie fairs like BLTX. Me and a couple of other me, Newbie, and a couple of other people that we know from our Malate and LaSalle days. One time we did launch a project together for October, the creatively named Project October, where we just
Only
so
happened
yeah,
one time.
we only have it one time. I wish we could say that it was like an ongoing Halloween series. I mean, I did mention before we should revive Project October, but then Naomi reminded me we should finish our other unfinished projects first.
Last remaining ones.
Oh my gosh. So many projects on the list. And the funny thing was Ghostly Crumbs was not even on the list of our projects. We just like we
Just spoke to
completed this
us.
project that we didn't even plan on ahead of time. So that's how bad we were at planning things.
Project manager.
Like, can I ask? Can
That's
I
my
ask?
job.
Can I ask what stops you, or like what hinders you from finishing, or maybe even starting a project?
Um, ourselves again.
Yeah,
uh,
Like,
yeah, ourselves.
like
yeah, I think it.
aside from obviously life and self doubt.
Just getting to the
Uh,
mindset of it being okay.
yeah. Maybe I'm just a little too okay to be late to everything. I embraced it too much. Um, Steph has a question. How do you prioritize which projects to work on? I guess that's for everyone, I suppose. Or is that for us? Because we clearly are so organized. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's KKB, do you wanna answer Steph's question first? Like how do you prioritize which projects to work on?
I guess for me, it's very dependent on my mindset. Like I do
Mhm.
have a list of so many like unfinished poems, and I just
Mhm.
it's been hard to get back into that same mindset that I was in when I started. And so I think whichever mindset I'm in at the moment, I try to really commit to that. especially for multiverse, it's hard because I'm not really used to projects that big yet. And so
Mhm.
it was a months long commitment of, okay, I gotta finish writing by this day, and then I start layouting the pieces on this day, and I do the
Mhm.
edits. I do have a tendency to over edit, and I think that is also what hinders me. I'm
Mhm.
never okay with what I have, but I am working on it. Yeah, that's for me. How about for you?
If I may jump in for a second, I don't know, I think that's something that people who have been immersed in the creative part from from early stage, we all have that sort of over editing ourselves in common. I'm just making this observation off the fly, but I think in KB's case, it's an asset for you that you started off as this very analytical, scientific, or mathematic person. So, and to jump into creativity, I think you got the best of both worlds there. That you fostered your creative side, and you know how you know the best possible way um, to to get things done. And personally speaking, because I'm not that kind of person, so that is very hard for me.
Well, it's hard for me too. Okay, don't think like I can just birth anything just like that. Like I haven't figured out the best way. Like it just works for me. So it just works for me. Like just to answer Steph's question, how do you prioritize which projects to work on? I do have a list too. So I create my to-do list, and then I don't know, just go by alphabetical order. What's the first one? Then okay, let's do that. And then the second one follow. And if I can't do that, then the next one. So that's just how it goes. Like I'm my middle name is also overthinker. So like I try not to succumb to it that much. So I'm just over the past years, like recent years, I've just really been trying to just, you know what, just do it. Like people will always have something to say. Me myself, I myself will always have something to say myself. So I mean, whether I do this or not, I will still like berate myself, like praise myself, and like I'll, it doesn't matter in the end. What matters is that um at that point, at that given moment, you were happy doing it and you get it out, and then that's it. Let it out. I just reflected about this last night. Like, let it out and then let it be. So just let it art. Let your emotions art and then let it go. So yeah, that's for me. I don't think I answered the how to prioritize, but yeah, I've just just take what resonates there.
uh, I like that, like let it art. Like just let it do its thing. And not not like over like not micromanage every single aspect of the creative experience. Um, yeah, that's really great advice. Actually, should be taking note.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
It resonated and we're taking it.
yeah.
But are
Now
we
we just
gonna
have to do it.
are we gonna apply it? Well,
It's
no.
the applying. It's
Yeah.
the applying part. That's hard. Oh
No,
my
I
gosh.
procrastinate a lot too, and that's why lists are very helpful. Yeah. And that's why when you get an idea, I think that's one of the more effective ways to get something. When you get an idea, just do it right away. Don't like don't let it sit in your journal or don't put it in your head because it's not gonna get out of there if you don't. Maybe that's one tip.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Stephanie,
Yeah,
Yeah.
every single don't there what is
emoji is
is
sending me.
uh I mean, just to relate it to the current topic of how to prioritize and how to like finish or carry on projects. Like I'm going to talk about the other collaboration we did before, which is the Plural Online Journal, which worked for a while, and I think Steph is um, somewhat familiar with our work before being published in our first or second issue, if I remember correctly. So yeah, we, me, Newbie, and hello, 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 RuPaul. Yeah, we ran an independent journal for 6 issues, which is, which is not bad. We built up a following, and I think what worked so well is that we had a team, and we were all, despite our busy lives, we were able to meet semi regularly and able to delegate and work together on it. The problem started when life started to happen to each of us. So it's I think it's always sort of hard to um, yeah, I think we solicited your work, Steph, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I think the hardest part isn't just the starting of it, it's losing momentum. So it's yeah, that's always the hump of the process that's the most difficult to do. In the case of both Ghostly Crumbs and another project that we're working on, which is called Store, which is a parody of IKEA catalogs. Um, oh my gosh, how long did we work on that?
It,
2 years?
I guess just to loop back to what KB said, look, so it's more of like that creative impulse that when you feel it, just follow it. So that's what happened with Ghostly Crumbs. But with Store, it took us, I think, 3 years. Because, and it was kind of perfect in a way because that, like, after that 3 year period, suddenly IKEA opened in the Philippines. And, like, oh, okay, I guess that's why we had to wait. But yeah, just that follow, like, for we also make lists, like, personally, like in my job, like I do operations, and it's kind of difficult to apply the same structure. We tried to apply some tools and spreadsheets to our prioritization, but it never really worked, I think, because for us it's more of that creative impulse, and for some, like for both of us, it's just really, oh, okay, maybe we should do this, we feel like we can be doing this, and suddenly there it is. So it's really hard to prioritize. I agree with what all of you said. The list helps a little bit.
You know what else helped us? The Comic at deadline.
Oh yeah, a deadline really helps too.
An external force, an external structure that yeah, we just need to kind of, how do we do that without somebody else poking us to finish?
I just want to
But
jump in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, 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 please go ahead.
Oh, this is just about the deadlines. I forgot to say that deadlines definitely help. Like if you set a deadline and people are expecting you to deliver, then whatever happens, you gotta make it to that deadline. So yeah, deadlines are great motivators.
Yeah.
And to
So
plug
thank you to Violet Circle for giving us deadlines. Ruby.
we're still bad at deadlines.
Terrible. I should be done with my PhD by now, actually. Spoiler alert, I'm not.
Nobody really knows we're late. Like in terms of pushing our projects or like releasing things, nobody really knows we're late. Like I always see other creators like apologizing, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this is late, until you told us. Like you can just keep it as a secret. If you're late, then just keep it as a secret. Nobody knows. You're still on time.
We'll start saying we're early.
We are early. We're early,
Yeah.
guys. You're
Yeah.
getting you're getting early access to everything. Oh, Erica, I just Oh, this is so off topic, but I guess we'll do it here because you kept mentioning that Niobe and you met in LaSalle, and I was wondering if you're the same Erica that knows Awina Poangco.
We know, both of us.
I just saw her this morning.
Oh my god!
Weena
Oh,
was
so
also part of our editorial board in Plural, so we
Project
know her
October.
intimately. And she's
oh,
also part of Project October, so we're quite close with her. Yes.
oh, so interesting. I think you wrote for a community blog that a community website that I run. So I'm just like putting
This
two and two
book
together.
bed.
This is
Book bed?
Bookmed, yes. This is
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
just
Fancy
so
meeting
Kate
you
is on the
here.
same page. I'm gonna pull it up and put it in the comment section. So, because I was just thinking, this is sounding more and more familiar. So, it's a very small world.
Yeah. Yep, that's
It's
me.
so funny. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm meeting Erica, and we're not even meeting properly because I'm my camera's off. But thank you so much,
Uh,
Felix Rico. There you go. very, very
it's
advanced
great
mic.
to meet you virtually.
You too. Super nice meeting you. So yeah, no, I was just very curious about that. It couldn't wait. I had to ask.
Yeah, and I think if creatives in the Philippines, I feel like the world is small. I mean, even if we don't know each other like, in person or haven't seen each other in person, I'm sure we all have um threads of connections to each other, especially if you're involved in Philippine literary scene as well. So yeah, if you've gone to workshops, I think you've gone to writing workshops before. Did I read that
I have
in
not actually.
or
Just within my college. I was from Ateneo, so
then we
I
know
was
someone from there. Pretty
yeah,
sure.
I was on a few issues of height, if you guys are familiar. So
With
I was
with
on
who?
I was on a few issues of heights,
Of
which is
heights. Yeah.
I think the equivalent of Malate literary folio in Ateneo. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've encountered we know people who've either overseen heights or have been published in heights. So yeah, the threads are since
Threads are
we're talking about
threading.
embroidery. This is the closest to embroidery I'm gonna get. Threading metaphors.
Makes sense.
The threads are threading, yes. Oh my gosh. Wait, Steph was saying earlier, time to plug Patreon. That KB's Patreon and should be
Oh gosh, not just mine. I think Steph's just asking us to plug all of our stuff.
oh all of our
Not
stuff.
just mine.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
that's since
okay.
you guys were talking. Oh, right, right. Yeah,
Maybe we should have
patreon.com. As,
and give you
yeah,
some.
on
Other
Patreon, I
people
do have
telling
a
us.
schedule there. It's like a side hustle, not a hustle. I don't want to call it a hustle because I really love doing it. And my patrons are super, super enablers. No, super supportive. So I do love um delivering stuff to them. So I do put out a schedule like every Monday, every Tuesdays you get this, stuff like that. So oh yeah, last night was a Canva plug, but we're not sponsored. But my Canva, we're here. Oh,
We have a representative.
that's so funny! Yay! And now the universe has been it has sent us Niobe. So yeah, that's it for me. In terms of my other work, I do have one link that will send you to all of my stuff online, at least those that I'm willing to share. But and all you have to do is to search for the username Heykebe and everything will appear. So there. I'll also type the link in the comment section for those who need the link. So I'll leave it there. And how about you, Kate? Where can we find you and your work?
I do have a portfolio on card, but it's not updated. I'm doing a little bit of um, structuring right now. But most of my recent work are all on my Instagram at croque.jpg. It's spelled like croc, as in croc monsieur. You know, yeah. All of my shenanigans are there. Posted about multiverse theory there. So yeah, I will also plug that in the chat.
And what do we plug newbie? Our Instagram. Yeah, because which we will most likely update very sporadically.
You know, we have like a site, so our Instagram would probably have all of the links, occults rays, or just we can also add the link there. We don't really have new projects yet, though. I'm still obsessed with ghosts, so if you follow my other account, it's mostly just sculptures of ghosts. But it doesn't have all of the stories, so
Did you also have the? Oh wait, did you already mention that the your repository of ghosts? Okay, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I copied
thank you.
it.
So good
Yes.
at prioritizing. Okay.
Let me find the other one.
Eric also has her personal art page that we can share.
Or you can find drawings of naked people.
That's your thing.
That's I think our personal our individual art account explain our us as individual artists, and Occult Razor is the child of those two art accounts. Wait, do I plug my?
I'm
No,
just gonna put our handles.
okay, yeah. So all right, so Occult Razor is our combined our collab account, and the other two are our individual ones. Um, Again, I apologize for what you will find in my individual article.
It might serve as inspiration for us, you know. Who knows?
yeah, and likewise, looking forward to um, whatever comes next for the both of you and your future projects. So, um, let's see. Yeah, so thanks again for um, sharing both your work and the thoughts and the process behind your work um, with us. It's always nice to interact with other creatives, especially me since I'm stuck in Australia. So most of if I do encounter other creative people here, it's usually um, not Asian. Yeah, so this has been refreshing, and it's really great to share our own processes with you as well.
Okay, I guess that's my cue.
Yes.
Um, well, thank you guys. That was so fun to listen to. And sorry, Naomi and Erica, for like not saying hi because I wasn't sure if you remembered me at all. So I was just like, okay, maybe they don't remember me, so I'll just not say anything. But okay, we kind of just
Remembered you the
suggested that we
moment you
do.
sent the
So I was like,
email.
hi. It's been years. I think we only had like one encounter before, like face to face. But anyway, um, so yeah, thank you again for that lovely conversation. Sorry, I just have to like remove my earpiece because I can hear myself. So yeah. Um, thank you, like the four of you, for that great talk. Thank you to Wahida for listening in here. I know Maui was here earlier, but I think she moved to YouTube, might have. So, Maui, if you're on YouTube, hi. And to the people listening on the YouTube stream, I did see a few of you there. So, yeah, thank you for joining the Zinester Talk. And I guess before we say bye tonight, just a few reminders to check out Kate's, KB's, and Occult's Razor's zines and chapbooks at the Zine Market. So that's slczmarket.myshopify.com. I linked those, like all your zines, on the YouTube live chat so people can click there if they're watching on YouTube. Um, oh, tomorrow is also the last day to get the Writers Festival ticket for people who want to submit to the Writers Workshop, where festival guest speakers will also be giving their feedback. Um, I think that's pretty much it. The deadline for the workshop submissions is this Sunday. And yeah, for those who are curious about the Writers Festival, you guys can go to slcwritersfestival.xyz. Thank you again, Erica, Naomi, Kate, and KB for this evening, and I hope you guys have a good
Thank you
night.
so much.